John, I know you've been following what's been happening with malware on mobile devices. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's happening so far this year?
The article that I recently found, and it's certainly not comprehensive because it's it's always a changing environment, right? But it was another McAfee article on mobile malware. I think the trend for this year, they're kind of talking about the trends, and I think we're going to see a lot of trends for this year, especially in the Android market, which is kind of scary, but it's kind of expected to. It's a fairly open, source. You can get, product deployed in multiple stores. You can pull it down. So I think it's seen as that low-hanging fruit, as we were talking about with the email issue. The mobile malware in 2014, the McAfee people have indicated they had three major points. They say that you're going to start seeing mobile malware in advertisements, which is probably not much of a surprise, really. I think that we see that today. Phishing, spam, those things, have always been a target, and a medium for transmitting malware. So I think mobile is just another way to do it. They talk about iOS Keylogger, and I think that that's probably not as big an issue as any of the other ones that they mention. I think that iOS devices are pretty secure. I certainly wouldn't be too concerned, but I think probably the biggest one that I personally feel that you're going to see in 2014 and on is application permissions. And they point that out. That we have to know what we're doing. When we give an app permissions, they ask for those permissions, and we tell it it's okay. And one of the challenges we get into is that after an upgrade or an update happens, those permissions carry over. So from one release to the next, permissions carry over into that new release. And sometimes the permissions have changed, how it's configured. And you have to be aware that your vendor, whether it's Google for Android or, Apple or whomever, they may have added some new features or some new configuration options. So it's one of those things that we always, say, be aware of your permissions and verify them. So I kind of came up with these 6 recommendations for 2014 to keep malware off of the devices. Stay up to date. It's something that we always, I'm an advocate sometimes for bleeding edge patching, but certainly you keep software up to date. You don't jailbreak or root your device. As soon as you do that, not only do you avoid any kind of support you can get, but sometimes those updates don't take, the patch isn't available. If it used to be always with the Apple world, used to talk about people jailbreaking and then they couldn't update. Well, you miss out on a lot of security when you don't update. And some of these are common sense. Know what you're clicking on. Don't click on random links. Free Wi-Fi spots. We've talked about that, I'm sure, many times. When you're in a free Wi-Fi spot, you just realize your traffic is and can be captured. And check your data usage. This is one that I actually caught the other day with an application that was a little suspicious, and I think that it's been cleaned up now. Is you look at your data usage on your device and you think, well, why did it spike? Why did it spike today? Why did it? What is this? 2 a.m. Connectivity going on? And you can kind of look and say, oh, that's not quite kosher. Let's be aware of that. And so as these days that, we get these large volumes of data, and what we have available to us on the device, we need to be aware of that. What are we using that data for? And are we inadvertently leaking something that we don't want to lose?
Right. Yeah, I think, at least personally, I struggle. Just about every app wants to know location information. You have to give it permission to get access to location information. And, for that one little thing, it seems appropriate, but you don't get the opportunity to discriminate whether they get access for that one little thing or if they get access to it for forever or wherever you might be. So, and that extends right into the malware space as well. That is, if you get in this mode of thinking where you give applications access to location information or contact information, that sort of thing, next thing you know, it's in the wrong person's hands. So, hey, Jim, do you have any thoughts on this?
This whole permission thing is a growing concern of mine. I've fallen victim to, I've got an app I like, it gets updated, it asks for a new, additional permissions, and I kind of just, accept it, even though I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, why does it need that additional, permissions. I need to go back and just uninstall some of these apps, even though I like them, just because they're asking for too much.
Right. Well, and I think there have been a couple of examples where somebody has put an app out on the market, making it appear legitimate, and then later on added sort of the Trojan aspect of it, started abusing their privilege. And I don't know that there have been any cases that have been enormously successful, but you would expect that as time continues, they're going to continue to try to see where that envelope can be pushed further.
And you have to worry too that you give these permissions, and it's a pretty innocuous app, but because you've given this permission, like you said, Brian, you side load some extra little feature, and boom, all of a sudden it's got a whole bunch more access than you expected.
Right.
Permissions, look at them one by one, and by themselves they're pretty innocuous, but I believe I've read a few papers that show what combinations of permissions can actually get you. And it's not always obvious that, A plus B doesn't actually equal Z somewhere else.
That's exactly
It's
right.
interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point.